Let's talk. I think one of the conversations I've seen more and more lately, especially online, the Discord channel a lot in my area, is new or newer members asking, well, what do I need to know to play in the SCA? Now, let's be fair. That is a really good question, and it's a very fair question because, I mean, just today, 3 separate online chats, we had one conversation which delved into woodworking, and then that skewed over into mountain combat, and then that skewed into sewing. We had another conversation that talked about some of the political essays of the period, the letters and the treaties written by major political figures of the day, and the things that they wrote to further their causes. And there was a third one where we were talking about social etiquette for the nobility as opposed to the royalty, as opposed to the commoners. What was acceptable? What was considered appropriate in mannerisms or dress? These are wide-ranging topics. These are the types of conversations that if you're not familiar with them, you just kind of sit back and go, what are you people talking about? And yes, that's very intimidating. I'm not going to downplay that. If you walk into a room and these people are tossing around high-level conversation on subjects you've never even heard of before, you didn't even know existed before, and they're talking about it like they were talking about what they had for breakfast, with just offhanded casual comments and tossing around names that you can barely pronounce. Yeah, that's intimidating. I'm not going to short sell that. That absolutely is a lot to chew on, and it can be very, very daunting to feel welcome in a society where that's kind of the normal course of conversation at times. And don't get me wrong, we are a society of people who physically enjoy these different conversation points. We enjoy talking about many of these different things. It is absolutely normal for me to delve in any one of these conversations, and I'm over 40 years old. I've got a whole library right here of various books that I've read on various subjects, so I have tidbits to offer. If you hang out in the SCA, you will be exposed to these subjects. That's a given. Now, whether or not you learn them, whether or not you absorb that information, whether or not you're even interested in it, that's a separate topic. And that is a topic that there are a lot of possibilities, but you don't have to be interested in any of them. Part of this goes back to why do we join the SCA? And the answer is yes. I know plenty of people who join the SCA strictly to fight. To be absolutely blunt about it, for them, this is a competitive sport. The trappings, the pageantry, the costumes, those are window dressing for the fact that they want to go out and they want to fight. And has modern day quarterback as that sounds, as Cro-Magnus, Neanderthal, stick jock, as we like to make these guys sound, it's no different from a football player or a competitive martial artist. It's no different from a race car driver or a horse racer. These are people who want a competitive physical sport. In our case, happens to be a full contact martial art. They're going to be interested in fighting treaties and armor types and who the current hot fighters are. Does that mean that they are more or less welcome in the SCA than the artisan who steeps themselves in artistic history, or the officer who steeps himself in kingdom policy and reads modern organizational manuals to help the society run better? Are any of these people more or less part of the society? No, they're not. So that's kind of a roundabout way of saying, what do you need to know to join the SCA? Well, technically nothing, but if I had to give you a short list so that you had something to anchor to, be polite, make an effort to learn, and at least at your first event, make a shot at period clothing. Yeah, that's it. I'm serious. You don't need to know the names of the great historical fencers. I know plenty of people who could rattle them off faster than they could rattle off their spouse's birth date. You don't need to know who the great painters or sculptors or woodworkers or carvers are. You don't need to know who the great metalworkers are. You don't need to know who wrote the treatise on stonemasonry. I know people who talk about that stuff as readily as some of us talk about modern sports. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know the names of the kings of England or Scotland or France or Spain. You don't need to know the different types of ships that made commerce a major, or sea commerce a major economic force during the later Middle Ages. You don't need to know all the points of the Spice Road. Are those fun things to know? Oh, hell yeah, they're fun things to know. Again, reference some of my library. You don't need to know what makes up the Roman army, how the units were broken down, what officers and what soldiers' ranks were. Do I know that stuff? Yeah, I find it engaging. I find it fun. I'd love to talk about it. But do you have to? Do you have to know any of that to show up? No. Truth be told, do you have to know the name of your local group? No. I would make it a point to learn it relatively soon. It'll make conversations easier, but no, you're not required. And you're absolutely not required to be able to pronounce anything. Let's just get this out of the way. If you're able to pull off some of these names on the first try, you are a better SCAer than some of the double peers I know. Do you need to know kingdom policy or kingdom law? No. Do you even need to know who the king is? Honestly, if you didn't even know we had a king, that's okay. What does it take to play in the SCA? At least to start off? Just have an interest. Oh, I want to go fight. Okay, that's enough. Oh, I want to go learn to sew these cool costumes. Okay, that's enough. Trust me. That's more than enough. I want to learn how to make this. I want to learn how to sew that. I want to learn how to carve this. Yep, that's enough. That's absolutely enough. I want to learn how to do ceremonies. Yeah, that's enough. We call it heraldry. You're always welcome. We're always looking for more heralds. I want to read books and talk with people who read about the same things I do in the Middle Ages. Yep, that's enough. That's absolutely enough. I mean, kind of on a peripheral, again, if you're going to an event, we really, really, really want you to make a shot at period garb. I mean, can that be a T-tunic, a belt, and a pair of sweatpants? Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. What do you have to do to play in the SCA? Show up, be polite, and have an interest. That'll get you started. After that, what do you got to do? You don't got to do anything, but my recommendations are make friends, ask questions, learn, be honest. If something doesn't interest you, give the person talking a chance to make their spiel, again, be polite, and then move on. Go find something else. You may suddenly find yourself fascinated by something that you honestly thought you would have no interest in. I know some 60-year-olds who are just getting into heavy weapons combat. They have no illusions. They're never going to be a knight, and they've said as much. They're probably never going to win a tournament. They have medical issues that restricts the speed of their shot. Why are they doing it? Because it interests them. It's fun. That's all we say. If it's fun, let's do it. Seriously, they're interested. That's all we ask. You watch Disney's The Three Musketeers and you want to learn how to fight like Chris O'Donnell. Yeah, that's enough. Show up to rapier practice. They'll teach you. I mean, may have to omit some of the backflips and some of the acrobatics, but yeah, we'll teach you how to swing a sword. Pointy end does go in the other guy, by the way. What do you need to do? Be ready to have fun. And find out what is fun for you. And we'll take it from there. You don't need to know anything else. You don't need to know the king's name. You don't need to know the queen's name. You don't need to know kingdom law. There's not a test. There's not a quiz. There's no requirements for any of this to be known in order to gain rank. I mean, are there places where you do need to know certain things? Are there times you are going to have to demonstrate detailed, specific knowledge and you will not be allowed to advance if you don't demonstrate? Yeah, that's part of the rank structure. In fighting, you will not be able to advance if you can't demonstrate safety. In the arts and sciences, if you don't demonstrate knowledge of the art, you're never going to get an award. But I mean, that kind of goes without saying. In service, if you can't lead, if you can't work, yeah, you're not going to go anywhere, but you're not going to do any of those things unless you want to. And trust me, when you start doing those things, it's not about learning names and places. It's about having fun, and learning those things becomes, how do I have more fun? Seriously. What do you have to know to start playing in the SCA? Learn how to say hi, give your name, smile, be polite, and get ready to have fun. I'll see you guys at the next event. Goodbye, and God bless.